Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday to you, 8:39. Does your child complain of a tummy ache or a headache when there may not be anything physically wrong? It could be a sign of an emotional issue for your child. Child psychiatrist Dr. Monique Jericho is here now to help us understand what somatic symptoms are and what parents can do to help. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for being here. You know, this happens all the time. I've got little kids, and they have often said to me, "Mom, I've got a tummy ache. You know, I don't want to go to school today." And you're left with that. Is it real? Is it not? So what's happening here?
So this can be really stressful for parents and for caregivers, right? Trying to determine like what is going on here, because the last thing we ever want to do is ignore a physical symptom or distress that our child is having. Right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes, you know, our children might feign having a problem in order to avoid things, right? So that's not what we're talking about here.
Okay.
I think what we're talking about today is this notion of kids actually developing real physical symptoms and actually being in distress.
Okay.
And having some of that distress be more a function of how they're coping with stress and how they're doing emotionally than having it to do with anything that's going on in their bodies.
Okay. But it's a real physical symptom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So a place to start with this is to consider the connection between the brain and the body. Right?
Okay.
And so our brains and our bodies are always sending signals back and forth to each other, of course, right?
Sure, sure.
And particularly when it comes to emotions.
Okay.
So,
like some examples.
Examples, yeah, for sure. So if we're sad, our bodies might cry.
Right.
If we're scared, our heart might beat faster. We might feel tension in our muscles.
Right.
You know, if we're feeling down or depressed, we just might feel kind of lacking in energy and sluggish. Right.
Right. So there is that connection that's going on all the time.
All the time.
So what happens then if that connection, there's something wrong with it? Or
Well,
maybe it's not working right.
This is exactly what we're talking about,
Okay.
right? So if this connection kind of goes off, one of the things that can happen is we can start to experience symptoms in our body, physical symptoms, but not have the connection to the emotional piece.
Oh.
So we may not know that we're stressed. We might not know that we're overloaded. Our body might just be expressing that emotion for us. And that can be such a tricky situation, right?
For sure. And especially with children who might not be able to articulate
Exactly.
or communicate with mom or dad or whoever the case may be, that I'm not feeling good about this.
Right.
Right?
Developmentally, you know, sometimes kids just can't name emotions or aren't even really sure when they're experiencing them, right? But they're going to notice if they're feeling physically unwell.
Of course.
And that's what we're going to hear about as parents and as care providers.
Okay. All right.
Right.
So what do parents do in this situation?
Okay. So again, tricky situation, right?
Right.
We always want to make sure, of course, to rule out anything that might be going on medically. So family doctor, check things out, make sure that there isn't an underlying medical cause that's, you know, generating these symptoms.
Okay.
But the thing that I think is really important that sometimes we miss is right off the hop, we can start thinking about, you know, what kind of stress is my child experiencing right now?
Okay.
Yeah.
And not necessarily bad stress, just stress of any kind.
Exactly. Just looking at their lifestyle. So many of our kids these days are really overprogrammed. They have a lot going on. And even if they might be achieving in all of those spheres, it could be that it's just too much for them, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Or maybe it's something negative, as like, you know, they're getting bullied at school or something like that. But you were saying that that's actually quite rare. It's much more likely that it is maybe something like overprogramming or stress.
It could be any of those things,
Okay.
right? But I think what we always look for the things like bullying, and we forget that even positive things in our kids' life can be
also be
overwhelming to
stressful.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if this actually goes undetected and gets bigger, then what are we looking at?
Yeah. So sometimes these types of physical complaints, things like, you know, pain in the stomach, headache, that sort of thing, if it goes on for weeks or even months and months, can develop into this sort of chronic pattern or chronic condition.
Okay.
It can be a real problem, right?
Right.
So obviously, if we get to that stage, that's when you want to get back to your physician and you want to start looking at what are some solutions here, almost like a rehab approach to getting your kid back into life.
Okay.
And that can involve a lot of different professionals.
Wonderful. Great advice as always. Dr. Jericho, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thanks so much.